The following program is recorded content created by the Truth Network.
It's Matt Slick Live. Matt is the founder and president of the Christian Apologetics Research Ministry, found online at carm.org. When you have questions about Bible doctrines, turn to Matt Slick Live for answers. Taking your calls and responding to your questions at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's me, Matt Slick. You listen to Matt Slick Live. Today is March 13th, 2023. As usual, if you want to give me a call, all you have to do is dial 877-207-2276. And if you want to email me instead of calling on the show, you can do that also. All you have to do is just go to your browser or wherever you go, email me at info@carm.org, info@carm.org, and then we can talk. You can email me there and we can do whatever we want right there. So that's it. We've got one caller waiting. I'm thinking, hey, why not? We'll just jump right in and let's get to Rudolph from North Carolina. Rudolph, welcome. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. My question is, if Satan knew Christ was God, why would he try to tempt him with something that was not tempting?
That was not what?
Tempting. And why would he try to tempt him with something that was not tempting to him? He knew Christ was God.
Yeah. Do you think that the devil in this case is perfectly rational and logical?
I don't know. He's not dumb.
Well, yeah, but you see, you got to understand that we often judge what others will do by how we understand ourselves. Assuming, for example, that Satan is kind of logical and he gets it, that Jesus is God, he's not going to be tempted, so why bother? We're going to add into this an insane evil that is flowing through all of the essence of the devil. It doesn't make any difference if he knows he can't be successfully tempted. He is so evil, he will, in his malicious intent, seek to undermine all that is good, always. So he would work to undermine who Christ is, just because that's his nature to do so. He's evil, all right? Okay?
It's like if you had, like, tempting somebody with something that's not tempting, and it seems like you would know that, but okay. Maybe you're right. Okay.
Well, yeah, but temptation in the Bible is of two kinds. One is to tempt, but God is not tempted. The other is to tempt an individual, and they can be tempted. The illustration I use is, I think it was in Psalm 110 or 105, I'm trying to remember, that the Israelites tempted God, 106. Here it is, 106, 13 through 15. They quickly forgot his works. They did not wait for his counsel, but craved intensely in the wilderness and tempted God in the desert. Well, the illustration I use is I have no interest in sports. I don't watch any sports. I don't care about any sports. And it just has no interest for me. None. So if someone were to offer me tickets to go to some football game, instead of going out to dinner with my wife, they're tempting me externally, but internally, I'm not tempted. It doesn't have any effect on me. However, if I am, going out and doing it with my wife, and someone says, "Hey, Matt, there's an atheist New Age conference over there, and they're opening up topics to anybody can ask questions," now I'm tempted. So God can be tempted without having an internal temptation. And this is how Christ can be tempted. He will not fall. He's not capable of falling. But nevertheless, the evil one is not rational, and he tempted Christ. He sought to work against him in all ways and all things and tempted him. That's what's going on there, okay?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the asking. I appreciate it. God bless you.
God bless you. All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, there you go. Okay. So we have 5 open lines, folks. If you want to give me a call, all you got to do is dial 877-207-2276. We have nobody waiting right now. It's a nice Monday. Sometimes on Mondays it takes a little bit to get going, but if you want to talk to me, that's the number. Also, for those of you who might be new to the show, Matt Slick is my real name. And let's see what else. It's my real name. And we do apologetics. We defend the Christian faith. So if you have questions you want answers to about why would God allow evil in the world, or who is God? Is oneness true? How about Roman Catholicism, Mormonism, Islam, UFOs, the occult, the nature of truth, evolution? We talk about all kinds of things here. So if that sounds tempting to you and you want to talk to me, all you got to do is dial 877-207-2276 and we can talk. Or if you want, you can email me at info@carm.org and say I got a question for the radio. All you got to do, and then we can talk. Let's get on the air with, I think it is Phil from North Carolina. Phil, welcome. You're on the air.
Hi. I was so glad to hear you, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago, you were talking about those 3 devil frogs in Revelation 16.
Unclean spirits like frogs, yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm a millennialist, more or less, okay. And I never could figure out how that Matthew 24:40 fit into the Amill kind of thinking. But then you brought up those devil frogs, and it made sense. And it makes me wonder, why is it I'm 60 years old, and I'm 61, and I'm just now hearing this.
Yep. Yeah. So that reminds me. On Sundays, I sit around the house. I watch TV all day. That's my day of rest. And I just watch whatever. And I went in and I watched, just for a little bit, the movie that played at a church the day I got saved, called A Thief in the Night. Well, I hadn't seen that thing in a long time, so I watched about 10 or 15 minutes of it. It was not very well done, but it's okay, you know. And they quoted where it says 2 men in the field, one is taken, one is left, and that's the rapture. And I said out loud, that's not the rapture, you know. It just reminded me what you said. Why have you not heard this before? Well, I think it's just simply because people get, and pastors and teachers and stuff, they just get kind of stuck, and they just assume that everything that they've been told or they hold to is correct. And so they don't know about these things. And, you know, they study, but they don't study in depth. And you got to hear what I said, and I got that from somebody else. I forgot who. This years and years ago. They said, what about this? Put these together. I went, wow, good thought. So, for those who don't know, who might be really like, what? What do you mean 2 men in fields, one is not the rapture? It's not the rapture. It's the wicked who are taken.
Well, I
through the
appreciate
context.
I appreciate you presenting that, because I've troubled over it. It's really troubled me over the years.
What has particularly that troubled you? What was it that did?
Well, the thing about one person being gone and the other one's still there, and, you know, it's like all the people that are sold out for the rapture idea, you know, it's like that's kind of like their evidence. Yeah. And it caused me to have a lot of doubts about my millennialism.
Ah, well, the rapture is true, you know. It does occur, you know, and it's spoken about in 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 16 through chapter 5, verse 2. It's just that the rapture stuff of Matthew, you know, 2 men in the field, one is taken, one is left. That's not the rapture. It's something else. But the rapture is real.
Well, you know? The dead in Christ shall rise first, and then we will meet the Lord in the air. But I'm considering that the wicked have been taken for the battle of Armageddon.
Possibly,
and so,
yes.
Is Christ gathering his army to fight the wicked army? I mean, our enemies are not of flesh and blood,
Well, yes, they are, but also of flesh and blood. I mean, I should say also, because, when Ephesians 6 talks about flesh and blood. But, so, also if you go to Matthew 13, where it talks about the wheat and the tares. I don't know if you've heard me talk about that.
Okay.
And it says, allow both to go together until the time of the harvest. I'll say to the reapers, first gather the tares. So the time of the harvest, the first ones gathered are the wicked. That's what Jesus says, Matthew 13:30. And then he interprets the parable later, and he says in verse 40, so just as the tares are gathered and burned up at the fire, so shall it be at the end of the age. And the Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they'll gather out of his kingdom all stumbling blocks. So people say, well, that means it happens at the end of the millennial reign of Christ, a literal 1,000 years. The problem with that is that when you look at this age and the age to come, there's only 2 ages. And at the end of this age is when the new heavens and new earth are made, and when the judgment occurs and things like that. It doesn't fit their theology. But I've never heard anybody preach on this. And this is, I'm going to tell you that I've been doing radio for 18 years. When I really started focusing and discovering this stuff about 2 men in the field, one is taken, one is left, is the wicked, and the first one's taken are the wicked in Matthew 13. I didn't really talk about it for 2 years. And the reason is because I was the only one I knew who was teaching this or believed this. And I thought, that can't be right. So I kept looking at alternate interpretations and alternate things. See, something's wrong here. And I can't be the only one who's seen this. And since then, I've discovered others have seen it. So I finally started admitting it on the radio. This is what I believe. So I was very cautious because, who am I? I'm nobody. But this is what the Word of God says. And so I think that people need to believe what it says, and that's what it says. There's 2 ages, this age and the age to come. At the end of this age, there's certain things that happen. In fact... there's back in the 90s, I spoke to a minister about the Book of Enoch, and he told me, the Book of Enoch is a lost book. And then later on, I find it was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I've done considerable studying over it, and, there's a bunch of passages in the New Testament that just don't make sense if you don't know what the Book of Enoch is telling you. Right.
And then Jude quotes it directly. So, I've had a lot of people tell me, it's not inspired, it's not part of the canon. Well, not technically, but there's a verse in Jude that was inspired.
Well, here's the thing. There are other books mentioned in the Bible. Okay, there's lots of them that are mentioned. The Book of Wars, Book of Jasher, Chronicles of David, Book of Kings of Israel and Judah, the Book of the Kings of Israel, the Words of Kings of Israel, Decrees of David, King of Israel, Chronicles of Samuel the Seer. I go on, okay? There's lots of books. I have an article on this. Other books mentioned in the Bible. Just because someone else is quoted doesn't mean it's inspired. So I think it is Erastus that Paul quoted as a pagan philosopher. And Menander, I think he did. He quoted Menander and in Acts 17. So there are false prophets and false teachers that are quoted. Doesn't mean they're inspired. So Enoch is not an inspired book, but there are certain things in there that the inspired writers can reference. And they did, just as they did in the other books that are mentioned in the Scripture. So it doesn't mean those other books are inspired. Yeah. It's just that they're quoted. Okay? That's all.
Yeah, I'm not accepting it as canon, but I think it has.
Good.
I think it has wisdom that can be used for Christ's glory.
Submit it to Scripture. Always submit it to Scripture. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay, buddy. Gotta go.
Thank you.
All right, man. God bless. All right. Jesse, I have an article on that. Did Paul quote pagan philosophers on carm.org? Yes, he did, but doesn't mean they're inspired. Hey, we'll be right back after these messages. Please stay tuned.
It's Matt Slick Live, taking your calls at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. If you want to give me a call, 877-207-2276. Let's get to Kenneth from North Carolina. Ken, welcome. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. One question I was when I was reading John 3. There at the end, John said, John was baptizing, but or his disciples were baptizing. there was a little bit of that question that John's disciples asked, about the baptism. I was wondering what type of baptism, or was it the same as John's, or I was just curious of that.
I mean, what kind of baptism did the disciples have?
Well, it said that they were, John was baptizing and his disciples were baptizing too, like at the end of John 3.
Well, yeah, they were all baptizing, but it was not a Christian baptism because Christ had not yet died, right? So they're baptized.
Right.
Okay. But, so you mentioned John 3, and...
Yeah, I think it's at the end of the chapter he's talking about that.
About baptism, okay. It's always good to have an exact verse, but so John 4, it says, therefore the Lord knew who the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, though Jesus himself was not baptizing, but his disciples were. So they were baptizing. Baptism was a public sign declaration of identification with something, and the Jews did it. And others did it too. And so it was just a baptism there that was going on. The question is, what kind of baptism was it? And that's another discussion.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was curious about. I'm sorry, I said the end of John 3, but it wasn't 4.
That's all right. Yes. No big deal. It's all right. So I'm not sure what your question exactly is. If you could formulate it again, what would you say your question is? How would you ask it?
I was just curious, where the disciple says, whether the Pharisees heard that Jesus was baptizing more than John. I was just wondering if it was still a baptism of repentance, or it was a baptism into, being a disciple of Christ, or a follower of the rabbi. I wasn't sure the Jewish culture, or
it's just a baptism of repentance and dedication. Yeah, that's all it was. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome so much.
All right.
Well, God bless. All right.
Thank you.
Well, that was Kenneth from North Carolina. We have 3 open lines, 877-207-2276. Bryce from Utah. Welcome. You're on the air.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Doing all right by God's grace. What do you got?
Hey, well, I was wondering about what you thought about the Chosen TV series. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah. I've watched every episode except for the last 1 or 2 because I was in Europe. But, I've been watching it and enjoying it.
Okay, so I don't know what to think about it, because having a hard time, because I come out of the LDS and it seems like Dallas Jenkins, the creator, he's saying that all the Mormons that he knows are all brothers in Christ.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what, why would he say that?
Because he's ignorant.
And he just seems like he's very ambiguous over LDS doctrine. He takes a stance of ignorance mostly, just to play nice with the LDS Church, because they filmed the show on their property.
Right. And
to make matters worse, now they're selling devotionals over the show, and churches in Alabama, I know specifically, they're bringing this devotional into their service, their church functions, and they're referencing the show, and I'm just like, it kind of bothers me. It's like, why do we need this visual? Why do we need this devotional to come inside the church? I mean, and, on top of that, it's like, we know a lot of people don't actually read the Bible, the Christians. And so I'm just like, how, like, it seems like it's just asking for a danger, because most people aren't reading the Bible, and then they get most of their information about Jesus from this show and this devotional. You're just asking for generational problems if this show keeps on going. So I'm just very concerned. I'm like, just what do I do with this show that has so many LDS ties coming out of the LDS? And I'm like, how do you think about that? just kind of bothers me. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. So Dallas Jenkins has been in contact with someone I know. I don't know if I want to say his name, but he's extremely well qualified to discuss the issue of Mormonism. I guess we could talk to Eric Johnson down there in Salt Lake City area. And hold on. And so he says he's been in email contact with him. So he knows what to say and how to reach Dallas with the truth of who, what the Mormon Church really is. It's not Christian. So, I'd love to talk to Dallas Jenkins. I'd drive down or just sit with him for a couple hours, and we could just go over stuff very simply. But there's a lot of qualified people who could do the same thing. But nevertheless, so that is a problem. And also, not only that, but the actor who's playing Jesus is a Roman Catholic. And from what I understand, someone has said to me that he's done some occult things without realizing it's occult, doing some stuff. And, well, Catholicism is also as bad as Mormonism is. They both teach idolatry, both teach a false gospel. And so, what do? Do we say, well, we're not going to watch it at all? Well, that's a problem, because I say that people need to be convinced in their own mind about this. If they don't want to watch it, don't watch it. If you want to watch it, watch it. There's two issues of logic here. One is what's called a genetic fallacy. So if my neighbor is an atheist who teaches me how to do algebra, does that mean algebra is no good because the source of the teaching was from an atheist? Well, the source of the teaching doesn't mean the teaching's false. So just because a Catholic is playing Jesus doesn't mean the information that's coming out about Jesus is false. And just because Dallas Jenkins is using Mormon scenes, what's the town, the setup, the settings, the town that they use, does it mean that it's bad? No, we can't say that either, because that's kind of a genetic fallacy thing. But on the other hand, we've got to be careful. We don't want either Catholicism or Mormonism promoted and accepted because of this. So that's a problem. But then on the other hand, there's another issue. I'm going to read it to you out of Philippians 1, starting in verse 15, because this is what gets me. This is the thing that influences me the most. Some, to be sure, preaching Christ, even from envy and strife, but some also from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel. The former proclaim Christ out of selfish ambition, rather than from pure motives, thinking to cause me distress in my imprisonment. What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed, and in this I rejoice. Yes, and I will rejoice. So we'll get to after the break, we'll talk about this a little bit, because one thing is for sure, Christ is being promoted in the chosen. And so we'll get back, we'll talk about that some more when we get back. Okay, hold on, Bryce. Hey folks, 3 open lines. If you want to give me a call, 877-207-2276. We'll be right back.
It's Matt Slick Live, taking your calls at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We are at the bottom of the hour. If you want to give me a call, all you got to do is dial 877-207-2276. Let's get to Bryce. You still there? Maybe we lost him. Hello, are you still there? All right. What we'll do is kind of continue the comment about it. So I've watched basically every episode, and I'm glad that Christ is proclaimed. So there are legitimate concerns, and I acknowledge that. The question then becomes, should we then, is it better that the series is not there, or is it better that the series is there? That's the question I ask. In my opinion, it's better that the series is there. It's better that Jesus is being portrayed, and pretty accurately. And there's some additions here and there, but you have to with a series that's going to just fill in a lot of blanks, and that's okay. But it's better, in my opinion, that who he is, what he's done, with the disciples, the issues, a well-done series is proclaimed, that unbelievers can look and learn about Jesus. They don't have to know that the issue of Roman Catholicism is false, from the lead actor who There's no Catholicism in the series, nor is there Mormonism in the series. And so, it's right there. And in my opinion, it's worth having it continue, because I'd rather that Christ be proclaimed than not. And that's out of Philippians 1:15 through 17. That's my opinion. Let's get to Sharon from North Carolina. Sharon, welcome. You're on the air.
Thank you. And thank you for being there for all of us.
Well, sure. By God's grace. So what do you got?
I have a question about Easter.
Okay.
I have a question about Easter.
Okay.
Is there anywhere in Scripture that tells why Easter is on different days every year?
No, nothing. It is due to the idea of celebrating, I think it's the first Sunday of the month or something like that. After this first Sunday, after the second something. Anyway, I have it written someplace, and that's why it changes. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And then somebody asked me, and I felt I have no idea unless it's something to do with, back in the Old Testament, the way they counted days and stuff.
It has to do with I'm trying to remember. And you can look it up online why the date changes, but it has to do with I am trying to remember, but anyway, I can't remember. Sorry, sometimes it comes back to me. But it has to do with how they judge it, how it's done. It has to do with the feast. It has to do with the date. It has to do with the first Sunday or something after this time, which changes because of the calendar, normal stuff. That's what it is.
Right, I figure it's something to do with the calendar date. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Take
well, God
care.
bless. Okay. All right. So okay. So Easter is celebrated on the first Sunday after the full moon. The full moon, something like that. So that's what it is, and that's why it changes. Okay. So, and because our calendars are slightly different than the Jewish calendar. All right, we have 4 open lines. If you want to give me a call, 877-207-2221 or 2276. Sorry about that. I released an article today, The Problems with Oneness, Theology, and if you want to check it out, you can. And also, I got to get the URL for that. Let me see if I can put that up. I'll work on it for the break, but we are trying to raise funds for a camera, and when we get the camera, then I would start doing some of the videos and stuff. And one of the things I want to do is like this video, or this article I just released. I want to be able to do a video on it. And then there's a whole issue of intro, outro. It's going to take me a few weeks to get into the groove and how things are done, but I'll get it figured out. All right. Let's get to, Sheba Kenneth. Blew that one, from North Carolina. Welcome. You're on the air.
All right. Thank you, sir. I just had a question about, David and Bathsheba.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some people talk about, it was adultery. And I know it was on David's part. Was Bathsheba willing partner? Because
yes.
I just noticed in, chapter, I was looking at 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter, it said he took her. And that's the same word that Nathan used, in his, when he confronted David.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about, in that little parable he was given there, little elegy he was given there.
Right.
And I was just wondering, was that type of force?
Well, let's look at the culture. Now, I just got back from Israel about 7 days ago, and so 6 or 7 years before that, I went to Israel as well. And the previous time, the tour guide said, "Here we are at the foundation stones of David's temple, David's palace." He says, "Now look down and look across the little valley there, and you can see the rooftops." And he said, "Now imagine Bathsheba." He doesn't want me to imagine nakedness and all that stuff, but that's what Bathsheba would have been, like that. And it occurred to me that it would have been very visible if you have good eyesight. And I used to have excellent eyesight. And now I don't because I'm in my 60s. Used to be better. My eyesight used to be better than 20/20. Twice as good as 20/20, actually. I had 20/10 vision for a long time. It was awesome. But nevertheless, he could have seen her. Now, why would she be on that roof bathing without any clothes on? It's just the question. Someone brought this up a while back, and I go, that's a good inclusion. So was she tempting David? I don't know. Was she loose? I don't know. Or was it that she was bathing and was hidden, but then how could he have known she was bathing? So that's one thing. So we don't know, but these are just possible factors that need to be included in that. Now, when a man like David was walk around, people were extremely respectful and even reverently fearful of him, because he's the king. He could order whatever he wants. So when he sends for her, she's going to be there. She's going to come. And she was there, and then it says then he took her. It could have been that she was intimidated, or it could have been that he said, I saw you on that roof. And she says, yes. And so there could be a possible hint that she was making herself available. I'm not saying it was the case. I'm saying it's possible when we look at everything. It could also be the case that she wasn't trying to tempt him, and he was putting his eyes and looking, noticing she's on top of the roof bathing. But why bathe on top of a roof also? It doesn't make quite, there's something else there. Because you normally would do that in the...
I was wondering about... I didn't mean to interrupt. I was wondering about the water situation. I know they didn't have hot water like we do. You just turn it on and off. So
right.
They'd have to heat it, or you'd want to be out in the sun. You see what I'm saying, in the evening. I'm not sure what the weather was like or any of that. So
yes.
You out there just because there'd be a warmer spot to wash up. Give her the benefit of the doubt, or like you said, we don't know. That was kind of speculated there. So I was wondering if that verb took, because that's the same word that Nathan used when he confronted David.
Yes.
He took his lamb from this other guy.
Yes, and that was an accusation. So I'm just saying that you're right, that's what it is, but what do we do? I'm just saying there's other stuff. Even if she was tempting him, which I'm not saying if she was or wasn't, just saying if she was, and he knew she was married, and then he took her, he's doing an action on his own, even if she were tempting him.
Right.
So then it would still apply. Right. And it was not his place or his right for that. So that's it. So that's how we could theoretically respond to that. So there's just a lot of factors there. And of course, one of the possibilities is that she was up there with a small pot of water, because water's heavy. It goes up there maybe to, who knows what reason, to bathe. And they would do that, not by necessarily, she could have poured water over herself, but generally you'd think with a little bit of water they would use a washcloth of some sort and then bathe that way. And this would require being exposed, but why on top of the roof? It's just a question. So there's a lot more there, but he did, is the word rape appropriate there? And some would say yes, and some could say no. It just depends on how we're to interpret the facts. And but nevertheless, he did what was wrong. Absolutely. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the question, that's one thing where God would look at her heart. Why was she there? He knows
and there's
that.
And there's no record of her crying out against him, which the Old Testament says she's supposed to do. So there you go. There's a little more. Okay, buddy. All right, man. We got to go. Hey, folks. There you go. And may the Lord bless you. We'll be right back after these messages. Please stay tuned.
It's Matt Slick Live, taking your calls at 877-207-2276. Here's Matt Slick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. If you want to give me a call, all you got to do is dial 877-207-2276. I want to hear from you. And I just want to let you know that we're trying to raise funds for a camera for Carm, and did a lot of research and found one that can meet a lot of needs very easily. And we're hoping to get it. If you're interested in checking it out and maybe helping support, you can go to carm.org/camera. And there's a link there to Give, Send, Go, and there's also an option to give directly to Carm. And we just did it last night, and now I'm just finally mentioning it. So you can just go to carm.org/camera and help us out if you want. All right. Having said that, let's get back on with Daphne. Daphne from North Carolina. Welcome. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. I was just calling about that previous call you was talking about David.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Bathsheba. And
Yes.
I was thinking maybe what David and all the men supposed to be in battle at the time.
I'm sorry, he was supposed to be what? Be in battle at this time?
The men. Yeah, wasn't he supposed to be in war at the time? Him and the men.
Well, yeah, a lot of them were. Bathsheba's husband Uriah was out there, and so David instructed him to be put up on the front line. He was killed, so it was bad. Yeah.
Right, but I was just thinking that David was. I thought Bathsheba probably was out there on the top of the roof. All the men were in battle at the time, and David was not, and he could have been.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So she would have not had to worry about being exposed like that. Well, that's an option.
Right.
And but to be public on a roof, there would have been some men in battle, but the elder men and the young boys would not have been. And David lived in this palace within eyeshot, and she would have known he was not out there. So there are some if and buts about it. Okay.
Okay, I just was thinking about that because I was thinking about him being in war and stuff, and I was just thinking like, well, maybe David shouldn't have been where he was at the time. He should have been in war with everybody else and all the other men. He should have been tempted.
Well, even then, women were modest in the culture. They weren't there for displays. Hey, all the guys are out. Because in normal culture like we have, that's formidable. But we need to be very careful not to impose that. And is it even permittable? But the thing is, even if something is normative and it's okay, was it back then? So in this issue, there's a lot of things that are hidden in the text. And like I said right before the break, there's no record of her crying out. And in the Old Testament, it actually says when a woman is being forced upon and she doesn't cry out, then she's guilty, because it implies she's consenting. Right. So there's no record of her crying out, so therefore it implies her consent. The implication is there. You see? Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Sure, no problem. All right, well, God bless. All right, well, we have nobody waiting right now, so why don't I get on to some of the emails. I like doing the emails, too, particularly on Fridays when we... interesting. It's a long email. Get into that some other time. When we do stuff on hate mail, I got distracted. Sorry about that. All right, let's see if we can get into some hate mail stuff. Let's see. The passage referencing the Philistine cities. We talk about David and Goliath because of Philistine cities. I saw the valley. I went to Israel and just saw where it occurred. It was right there. It's really nice being able to see that kind of stuff. Look down in the valley and you can see it. So let's see. Let's try this. Let's go on past that. That's right. I got to answer that. That's a whole other thing to do. I stopped listening. Oh, yeah. Because of the flat earth stuff. Let me talk about that. I'm just going to talk. Oh, we got callers coming in. But I can prove to you, it's easy, I can prove to you that flat earth is not true. It's very easy, and all you got to do is look at the moon. Now, imagine something like this. Imagine a circular table, and this represents the round earth. And there's a dome, as they like to say, over the earth. Let's say that the circular table is 3 feet in diameter. 1 meter in diameter, let's say. The dome would be maybe 2 feet above it, to the top of it. And then the moon and the sun are inside the dome, and they're rotating. Okay? All right. Now, imagine, if you would, you're in a living room. Okay? We'll just take this angle, and in the center of this living room is a light bulb. And there's a chandelier hanging from it, or a round light cover from it. And you are in one side of the living room, another person is on the other side of the living room. You're going to look at that object, that light, this represents the moon, which is rather low compared to the diameter of the flat earth, or the distance between you and the other person in the living room. So if you're on one side of the living room and your friend's on the other side of the living room, and you're both looking at the same light bulb with a light shade thing around it, what do they call it, a light bulb? A glass thing around it. You're both going to be seeing the same thing from entirely different angles, and you will not see the same thing. You will see different sides of that orb, that light. The only way to see the same side is to raise that object up and up and up, higher and higher and higher, until it's so high that the angle between you and your friend looking up is almost the same. That's when you would see the same side of the moon. This is one of the ways to prove the flat earth does not work, because the people on the earth would be seeing different sides of the moon from the flat earth model. They don't see different sides of the moon, therefore the flat earth model is false. It's so simple. This is so simple. It's easy peasy. Let's get to Rachel. Rachel, don't know where you're from. Welcome. You're on the air.
Well, thank you. How are you doing today, Mr. Matt Slick?
I'm doing fine, by God's grace. What do you got?
I've got that answer to how they determine the date for Easter.
Okay.
And you were on the right track in your thinking. It's the first Sunday, after the first full moon, after the first day of spring. Like you always say, it's real simple.
There you go.
It's real simple.
So it's the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the first, after what? After
the first
Passover?
Day of spring. And that's why sometimes it can be in March, and sometimes, because if the first day of spring and the first full moon happen within a day of each other, it's going to fall in March.
Right. There you go. Well, I've actually written an article on this, and they showed it to me in the web. I've written so much, and a lot of times I'll write something and then forget what I've written and researched. And I remember there was something about the calendar, and there's a date, there's a marker that changes, and that's why. And so thanks for providing that information. I appreciate it. All right?
I love you, Matt Slick.
Well, good. I'm glad. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right. God bless.
You too.
Okay. All right. See, I love that. That's good. And I got an article on Carm. Why? Maybe they'll tell me what the article is. Again, I'll look at it. Mike from North Carolina. Mike, welcome. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks.
Sure.
I was reading in my Bible, and it was talking in Joshua 11:6 about how Israelites were supposed to go into a country, and they were supposed to kill everyone, and they're supposed to hamstring all the horses.
Okay.
It just seems cruel to go in, and I'm not sure if I'm just thinking about it in my modern sense, but to go in and just do something to an animal but not kill it, but just wound it really severely, it just doesn't, it seems unhumane, if that's maybe a word I could use.
Inhumane, yes. Also, you know what would be inhumane is taking a lamb and slitting its throat and let it bleed out, and then sacrificing it to God. And goats and bulls. That would be inhumane also. It was done all over the Old Testament. Yep, by our modern standard, we wouldn't agree to that. So the question then becomes, because this is a criticism that sometimes atheists will give, well, that's wrong to do. And I'll ask them, where does it say it's wrong? And what standard do you have that it's wrong? You're just saying you don't like it. So is it cruel? Well, it depends on how you define cruel. Yeah, there's different levels of cruelty. And so the fact is, this is what was done. And we just accept it. That's what it is. Okay?
Well, I hadn't thought about the whole goat and lamb thing, so...
Yeah, it's it is worth discussing. There's a phenomenon called ethnocentricity. And what it means is that we judge another culture by our own. So we would say our culture is the right one, the normative one, and then we judge another culture based on that. And we say, well, we're the ones who are more progressed. We're the ones with better morals. We're the ones who are this and that. And it's called ethnocentricity. And so that's what happens a lot. People will judge the culture of another, like in the Bible. And they'll say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why not? What's the standard? If God decrees it, there's a reason for it. And if God is saying, kill an animal for the sacrifice, well, that's, in one sense, it's cruel. Well, what does that animal do? Nothing. But then again, they'd also do the same thing in order to kill it, in order to eat it. So is that cruel? Maybe we could, depends how far we want to go with this, but we could say, well, the Israelites probably just took a knife and slit its throat, let it bleed out. Well, wouldn't it have been better to take a more humane method with a shotgun or something like that, or give it a drug to put it to sleep and then take care of it? Well, these kind of things are our impositions upon it, and we say this is how it ought to be done, but they didn't have the facility back then, and so they would do it the way they understood, and it was acceptable. So there are, when you start examining stuff and looking at a different context, different ways, you go, man, yeah, in our modern framework of thought, we wouldn't do it that way. But they did back then. Okay?
All right. Well, thank you.
Sure, man. No problem. God bless. All right. Well, hey, we have nobody waiting, and we got less than a minute on the show. Just want to let you know that we stay on the air by your support, folks. If you want to support us, all you got to do is go to carm.org/donate. I don't like asking, and I don't. And I'm just letting you know, just by the grace of God, we stay on the air by your support. So if you like what you hear, you want to support the radio show and the website, which is reaching, or has reached, I updated my calcs, it's reached 155 million people. 155,082,242 visitors. 85 million have returned, and a total of 240 million page views. So the web is incredible. We can do a great deal. We write articles, and thousands see them all over the world. So if you want to support that effort, please consider just going to carm.org/donate, and we'd appreciate it. God bless everybody. There's the music, and I'm out of here. God bless. Bye.
Another program powered by the Truth Network.